Welcome everyone that's live streaming this conference. We are so excited to have such a large viewership. You'll notice that on the comment section on YouTube, you can post questions there as well. We'll make sure to do our best to try to copy and paste them over to our Q&A here to get that information to the moderators. The platform that some other participants are using is Zoom. So we have the Zoom and the YouTube audiences. All are very, very welcome. And for the Zoom participants, you'll see that there's a chat function. Again, feel free to introduce yourselves, words of welcome, and there's a Q&A function. Please put your questions for the moderators in the Q&A. Excellent. So with that, we are going to turn over to my favorite portion of all of these forums, the welcome from our fearless leader, Bukeni Waruzi. Bukeni is not just the executive director of Free the Slaves. He's actually the person who led all of this into development, the idea that each of the regions should have a voice and should be part of this global narrative. And he's really secured not just the funding and the resources to make this a reality, but he's also made this something that we can sustainably count on for the future. So Bukeni has really transformed our field. I'm so honored as a director for Free the Slaves to be able to join you for these forums and to support this work. And throughout my career working in measuring modern slavery and in academia, I know that these types of forums are just so important, and having the multiplicity of views and data and information coming together is just the very best way that we can fight this issue. So with that, over to you, Bukeni.
Yeah, thank you so much, Davina. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Free the Slaves headquarters in Washington, D.C. I am so privileged and really so honored to have the opportunity to join you as you discuss this very important topic, which is the theme of the Asia Regional Freedom from Slavery Forum. No need to introduce myself. I take advantage of our very wonderful board member and colleague, Davina, who really kindly has been running through these forums and really provide the much needed support in terms of trying to facilitate these discussions. So as we meet today, first of all, I want to acknowledge that and to say that our thought with our colleagues in Bangladesh as they are trying to make sure the governance can be according to the aspirations of the people. So let's not forget that some of them could have been here with us this morning. However, for that reason, some of them might not. Now, I mean the freedom from regional, sorry, from freedom, the freedom from slavery forum has been a kind of a tremendous space that has opened to activists, advocates, government, survivors, academic funders, union leaders, and each and everyone working in the space to share, to learn, and to influence, to partner, to network, to discover, and all of that you can imagine. And this has been something that really we have seen the trend going really very well in really across the world. And this is what the movement is. Not that the forum is the movement, but it is part of the movement. So its contribution to the movement, is now become very critical to make sure that there is really a space that can hold these discussions and these learnings. As we always say, the forum is not a network, is not a coalition, is not a membership, but that kind of very unique, neutral, independent space that everyone can come and speak his mind, learn, and really try to share and find out, what are the promising practices and solutions to address modern slavery and human trafficking in local communities. So, I mean, the forum started as a small gathering out of Stanford University in California, where thought leaders of the anti-modern slavery movement will meet once a year to share and also really to get to know each other and know who is doing what and what is working versus what can we learn from those kind of good practices that are happening around the world. Now, and then in 2018, we kind of held our first ever global forum in Bangkok. I'm sure some of you here have attended the global forum in Bangkok, which was really the first time the forum left the US continent or the North American continent to outside around the world. And the idea was let's make sure we can make it accessible, reaching out to other parts of the world and learn from those parts of the world. And in 2021, it was a complete transformation as we came to understand that the space is growing, the space is very much needed by everyone, and the solutions and the context of modern slavery and human trafficking is not the same. Uh, Modern slavery and human trafficking is not the same. Sorry, in Asia, it's not the same. In Africa, it is not the same. In the Middle East, it's not the same. In Latin America, not the same. In the Caribbean, and so are the solutions. And so are the solutions are also not the same everywhere. So how do we make sure we focus the discussions in a way that the response to modern slavery reflect the regional or the community issues and approaches. That's how since 2021, we started thinking in terms of regional forums. And while as we try to adapt to the context as they were evolving, of course, we have also to acknowledge that we have also to learn. You may remember in the past, for those who might remember, we used to put together North America and Europe, only to find that, oh, actually, these are, the issue cannot be treated as same. And this year, we have embarked in a journey of running 7 regional forums. And every time you attend or I have the chance to attend these forums, I learn a great deal of lessons and the context, the different approaches and methodologies to tackling the issue of modern slavery. And this is what this forum for Asia is very unique in its way that the theme is is very unique to the context that has been to the context of the Asia region, the region of Asia. And that is what we've seen in all these contexts or all these regional forums where the context, the theme, and everything is very unique to the region, to the communities that being discussed, and that is it. But also all of this, we always make sure that we have a space for the survivors as we try to make sure their leadership can help inform these practices, can help inform the responses, and how to make sure we can really discuss effective responses to modern slavery, learning from those with lived experiences, those who actually lived the issue that we are discussing. This is not about reading books. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not about reading report from whatever, but really learning from the survivors as they share with us what works from their point of view as those that have gone through the tough experience and how can we learn from them. And now the the approach of regional was also strengthened not only by really expanding the reach and access to survivors, but also government. We have seen in most of these regional forums, the participation of government or officials has made the discussion very tangible, very comprehensive, and very inclusive. And that is for one reason, because no single agency can end modern slavery by itself. You need everybody to come together. So this is what the forum has become. It's neutrality, the space being independent. So we are able to bring together everybody from the government to survivor through the unions, um, the academics, the funders, and even students, observers. Everybody can come and contribute. So I think what we're meeting to today, the theme is really very exciting, to empower, to expose, and to eradicate. What best than that? And really that's where I think really the identification of the theme speaks to the issues in the region, and the discussions will help all the participants to learn more, to see what works to empower, what works to expose. And if we can do both, we may, that may lead to eradicating modern slavery. I know there are some, these can be aspirations, but uh, but aspirations come with ideas, and these ideas are the ones that we want to discuss here and see what comes next. I wanted to end by really thanking the planning committee that really worked so tirelessly to come up with a structure, a theme that really speaks to the issues in the region, um, and really want to really express our gratitude for taking the time to really meet with others and come up with this wonderful theme and structure to lead the forum in terms of providing the moral and intellectual leadership. I want also to acknowledge our sponsors, of course, Walk Free, Freedom Fund, the ILO, those donors that really wanted to make sure that we can have the resources that we need, and the Dan Axe Foundation to make sure we have the resources that we need to really continue the huge contribution that the forum provides to the movement. I want to end also by really thanking everybody, speakers, you, the participant, specifically, for joining the rest of the group, this morning to share and to learn, without forgetting the speakers for the time you took to do the presentations, to prepare, and to really share with us the content that we need to really make sure we can empower, expose, and eradicate. And really to finish, I want to thank the team led by our colleagues, Giselle, Kuldeep, Aline, Brian, and Jaime, and others, Tsering, and Romsey, of course, for helping to make sure everything, the logistics, the preparation, the organization come to work. And the best one, really, Davina, for standing up to this time, just to make sure she can continue supporting us, to make sure that we can provide, so to make sure that this space can be of use and we can have these wonderful discussions. So with that, I want to say really thank you so much for the opportunity. I may not be able to sustain to stay until the next 3 hours, as here it's almost 2 a.m. But really, I very much appreciate the opportunity to come and share a few thoughts, the background, and what we need to go with these forums. So with that, I yield back to you, my friend Navina.
Thank you, my friend. That was an excellent introduction. And I think this is also similar for the forums. Every single time I hear Buchaney give his remarks, I learn a little bit more about some of the context for how very difficult it was to establish all of this globally and how amazingly it's grown. So thank you for your leadership here, my friend. And he leads a very important organization, so certainly we can understand if you need to sleep a little bit during the overnight hours. On that note, Dr. Balfour, who is also my fearless leader during the forums, may on occasion step in the event that my infant daughter wakes up. So this is not an unusual time for me, but it just depends on how this will be going. So Dr. Balfour will be here. So with that, today's pillar focuses on empowerment, and that is really at the core of what we heard Buchaney just address. And one of the things that I joke around with the team about is that every single forum we do, if it's the Caribbean or if it's French speaking Africa, I feel a personal affinity to. And I'm going to let you all know in the Asia Forum that you're also probably the closest ethnic tie I have. I mean, I'm so grateful to be able to introduce our next moderator, Sudeepa Dungana. And I think you'll notice our last name sounds similar. So I'm very excited to see so many country women here from India and throughout Asia. So one of Sudeepa's really fascinating positions is that she's on the board of directors of an organization that she joined as a volunteer, and I think that's such a beautiful legacy as somebody who serves on the directors as a director for Free the Slaves. It's an incredible commitment to the organization, and leadership at all levels really helps inform that type of directorship. So thank you so much for doing that, Sudeepa. She has an impressive background. She has an MBA and a background in counseling, so you know she's going to be an excellent moderator for anything her panelists may bring to this discussion. And her specialization is to focus on preventing girls trafficking, specifically by spreading knowledge. I think that she's going to give us a very fascinating perspective on this first panel, looking at education and awareness, and specifically on educational strategies to combat modern slavery. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Sudeepa. Thank you.
Welcome you to today's panel discussion on educational strategies to combat modern slavery. As already Davina already introduced my about myself and my organization. Yeah, I am Sudeepa Dhungana, Board Secretary of Rural Health Education Service Trust, and over 12,500 girls benefiting from our education support program in 18 districts across the country. To ensure that they stay in school at least up to grade 12 and less likely to be victimized in early age. We conduct community awareness campaign in vulnerable communities to inform them about human trafficking, forced labor, exploitation, and early marriage. Our program sensitize parents about keeping their girls at school rather than sending them to work. We also equipped our girls with age-appropriate knowledge about human trafficking, unsafe migration, exploitation, domestic violence, gender-based violence, and today's hot cake as mental health issue. We also aware them about mental health issues as well. We also inform them about their legal rights, and we provide small training on legal rights. We inform them about how to seek the help when they exploited. This is my brief introduction, and then it is my honor to introduce our esteemed panelist, Miss. Each panelist have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and about their works. First, I would like to invite Miss Lon Luang, Program Director of Counter-Trafficking Pacific Links Foundation, Vietnam. Miss Luang, please share your brief introduction and your impactful work, what you are doing in your organization. Up to you, Miss Long Luang. Loan Luang.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody from all the world. So I am Loan Lương, Program Director of Pacific Link Foundation. I am based in Vietnam. Pacific Link Foundation is an American non-profit organization. We run on programs in the grassroots community in Vietnam since 2005. We focus on two main portfolios, education and modern slavery prevention. I am in charge of the modern slavery prevention portfolio. For us, education is the key solution in modern slavery prevention. We provide over 1,200 scholarships for the students every year from the Mekong Delta and the central of Vietnam. We not only provide scholarship, but also provide reliable and trusted information in safe migration and the tactics of the human trafficking to the student and to the people in the community. Through our outreach activity in the school, a vocational training school, in the bus station, in the minority markets near the border of Vietnam and China, for example, in Lào Cai, we conduct a lot of outreach and training for the worker and manager inside and outside of the factories. At the present, the people is facing to the fake news and unreliable information. Advertisement are on the social media, for example, like live work and high payment. So we have run so many outreach campaigns on the Facebook, TikTok, even on our Basu app, the worker well-being mobile app that Pacific Link Foundation had developed and launching since 2020 until now. So now we have like 23,000 downloads in our app right now. And we have a spotlight via Zalo app to receive the call from the victim of trafficking, their family, and our partners, even from the 111, the Vietnam National Hotline. We have run a compassion house, a shelter to provide the safe housing and reintegration services for the victim of trafficking in Lào Cai, near the border of Vietnam and China, and reintegration services in the communities. So right now we provide like over 1,800 beneficiary victim of trafficking and potential victim of trafficking. And even more talk regarding to the collaboration. So you know that we cannot do by ourselves. We collaborate with our partners, the teacher, local authorities, and law enforcement in Vietnam and other countries to run and support the vulnerable people, especially in Vietnam and in other countries like in Asia, in Europe country, in the UK. We conduct a lot of capacity building training for the frontline responder in the community, in the in-person training, online training, and especially even through the self-learning courses on our platform. So that what we're doing in Vietnam, and we hope that we in this panel discussion, so we can share more information and our activity in Vietnam and in other countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Luan, for your insightful introduction. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. R. Karapasamy, Executive Director of Rights Education and Development Center, READ India. Mr. Swami, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I am Karpasamy. I am representing READ organization. READ, we working for interstate migrants nowadays, particularly in textile supply chain. So I am from South India, particularly in Tirupur region. Tirupur region is a textile garment export hotspot. Near 60% they are export to Europe, UK, US. Garment, cloth, and yarn. Nowadays, increasing interstate migrant from North India to South India, particularly Jharkhand, Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha. These states are coming to South India for the work, but they're doing recruitment by the middle person. They're doing exploitation. They're traveling by train or bus to South India. It kind of a trafficking. This is a labor trafficking, but where they stay here, very difficult situation. Housing, sanitation is very poor. they're not able to getting minimum wage, even their social securities, provident fund or health insurance. Even they restricted the freedom of movement. Their situation is kind of a bonded labor situation. So therefore, read what we are doing in this situation. They're coming with their family. So therefore, we set up a interstate migrant resource center. In the resource center, we supporting children education, because these children, they're becoming a child labor. They're working in home-based work and small scale industry, and also is a big suppliers to exporting to other countries. So therefore, we are doing prevention at their settlement level, where they're living. We starting education centers. We supporting their own language, because in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu, we are speaking Tamil language, but they are speaking Hindi. So therefore, we are teaching with our volunteers. We supporting their health education. Also, we sensitizing the parents. Also, we have not only education for children, and beyond that, we have a helpline. Helpline, their own language. We have our own staff. They're speaking Hindi speaking staff. We are addressing their grievances. Even we will be supporting some counseling. Also, we developed India Migration app. So app, we're registering how many workers are there in textile garment sector. So that's we are also registering. Based on the data, we engagement with the government, we supporting this the data with the government, because they are all in textile sector supply chain. 25 to 30% nowadays interstate migrants. Therefore, that's also we having organizing multi-stakeholders meeting, uh, consultation at national level, South India level, at Tamil Nadu level. We are based on we are doing some of the research on interstate migrant situation, the children situation. We are spreading their issues and their recommendation findings and recommendations with the different stakeholders, government, suppliers, as well as and industry associations. So not only that, also we having engagement with the media. Is a media, particularly in English media, the Hindu, Indian Express, and other media. We share our findings and recommendations. Even some of the cases we are rescuing as a bonded labor with support of government. We are getting release certificate. That's also we are exposing in magazine, particularly in media also we are doing. That's also we are doing. Also with community level, where they're staying, we forming interstate migrant groups. The groups who are working in textile supply chain, we're doing some of the training at community level, particularly the prevents aspect, their bonded their wage and PF and social securities, if they need any help. So like that, we are doing something. Also, we are doing some of the legal awareness at community level. Even some of the supplier with the government support, they're coming forward. We are also educating this Interstate Migrant Workman Act, the Indian law. It's an Indian law 1979. So says very clearly, they should ensure their social securities, wages, everything for the interstate migrant. They have to register at source and destination states. That's also we are sensitizing on with the supplier. That's also we are doing. Also we are doing we are regularly engagement with the government, because the government is a duty bearer. They have the responsibility to ensure the migrant workers' rights. So regularly we are engaging with the government. Whatever grievances we are taking, we forward with the government. Therefore, we can see in the Tirupur region, particularly in South Indian context, we are rescuing some of the cases with the support of government, but it is very difficult, how the government will behave here. But as evidence, the regular engagement, we are convincing with the government. This is a Indian Penal Code, is a IPC 370, is a trafficking. Also, Bonded Labor Act 1976. We rescued several cases. We have some of the examples. So therefore, no, it is still existing. It is a fight. Also, it is a human rights issue. We are regularly engagement. We can see the changes in future. So thank you so much. We can discuss in further.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Swami. Thank you for your incredible work that you are doing in your sector. I would like to welcome Ms. Sandhya Shitaula. Asia Regional Migration Coordinator and Lead for Climate Change Migration, Tere Des Home Foundation, Nepal. Over to you, Sandhya.
Thank you so much, Sudeepa. Hi, everyone. I am Sandhya, and I am Asia Regional Migration Program Coordinator at Teres Des Home Foundation, and I'm based out of Kathmandu in Nepal. So to talk about my organization, Teres Des Home Foundation is the largest child rights NGO based in Lausanne in Switzerland, and we work in three programmatic aspects, namely health, access to justice, and migration. And in Asia, we work in India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. So today I would like to share something about our work around migration, and particularly with our work targeting to the trafficking population, especially at-risk population, and also with survivors. So here I would also like to share about the toolkit and methodology that TDS has been using. So we are using this post-war protection toolkits that TDS is globally recognized for its expertise in, and was involved in development of this post-war protection toolkit with UNHCR and the International Olympic Committee in 2018. This post-war protection is an approach to support the development and protection of at-risk and exploited young people through sports. So here there will be a structured sessions, and the reflect sessions will be conducted where different issues will be discussed, and it includes components to provide a safe, protective, supportive environment to achieve a positive social outcomes, including social inclusion, social cohesion, self-efficacy, and psychosocial well-being. And TDS and its partner have seen how post-war protection, when adapted to the local context, for example, we have adapted this post-war protection in India for Kabaddi. So we are doing Kabaddi for protection in India, football for protection in Nepal, handball for protection in Bangladesh, and these has been a very powerful methodology to build efficacy and empowerment of at-risk children and youth and survivors of trafficking in different forms of exploitation. When we are talking about post-war protection here, sports will be used as a hook to encourage the girls and at-risk population, especially who are at risk of trafficking or unsafe migration, to encourage them to have their participation in the program, also to increase their self-efficacy and agency through the methodology. The methodology will also increase their knowledge and access to education, employment, and bolster the support mechanism and community integration. And throughout the program, what we have realized is, like, working in this field over a decade, what is our learning is, like, just doing one time few hours of half day orientation or like awareness interventions are not very effective, and people, like, slowly people will lose their interest in our program, and they will not find it very, very attractive to be a part of the program. So this particular methodology, post-war protection methodology, is a tool that will have a continuous engagement with the beneficiaries, and then we'll have a long-term kind of engagement through the spots with the at-risk population, and this will slowly, like, because of the engagement, it will slowly build the trust in the community through the spots, and we will be able to, like, actually do a lot of stuff that the half-day orientation will not be able to cater on. And we have used this methodology in the school setting with the school-going kids, but also in the community settings with the dropout and non-school-going kids. So this methodology can be adapted to both kind of context, and we have seen several positive impacts on the life of the participants, including their increase in the knowledge, because there will be a reflect session, and each reflect session will be guided by some curriculum on specific topic. And also, like, we have seen their confidence level raised. They will have an allyship because they will be a part of special protection group, and then we have also seen the increase in the leadership to lead advocacy and awareness session by their own. So these are few of the things that the special protection program that we're doing in all 4 countries, and I'm happy to share further in another round. Thank you, and over to you, Sudeepa.
Thank you, Sandhya, for your insightful introduction. Now at the last and our 4th panelist, Lucy, I'd like to invite Lucy McRae, CEO of the Freedom Story. Over to you, Lucy.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and for joining me today. It's exciting to be here. I'm Lucy. I work at the Freedom Story. We are an organization that is preventing child trafficking in northern Thailand. We do that through holistic vulnerability reduction. If you think about it as a series of kind of concentric circles, we begin with the child and the family at the center and support them with resources to help them overcome their risk and vulnerability to trafficking. For example, educational support through scholarships, mentorship, activities that help them to understand their rights, but also access their rights at the government level, and then income generation for the family as well. And then as you move further out, we have kind of other folks in the village, village headmen, village elders, other people in the village that are supporting and looking after the child, teachers, government, police. And so we work at all of these different levels to ensure that the whole ecosystem is really strengthened to combat trafficking, as well as the child and the family being strengthened in their vulnerability so that they can move from a place of risk to a place of resilience. Like my other fellow panelists, we certainly do not work alone. We know that no one can fight this issue alone, or no one's going to solve the issue alone. So we work in partnership with local government, police, NGO partners, academics, and in various networks throughout Thailand. We've been working here in Thailand since 2008. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for all the panelists for your brief introduction and introducing about your work as well. Now I'm moving forward to panel discussion. While the panel discussion is ongoing, I'd like to request all the audience to leave the question, if you have any, to the selected our panelists. And the question our secretary will collect the questions and pass it to me, and I'll moderate the questions to our panelists. Okay, first I have questions for the panel discussion while introducing yourself and about your organization. I have one question for Ms. Lone. I have a question for Ms. Lone. What strategy have you found effective in engaging communities to raise awareness about modern slavery? Please share your best practices and experiences so that we can learn from you.
Thank you for your question. Based on our experience when we run the program, especially the outreach activities in the school, in the market, in the communities. So I think that the first thing we have to work with the local partners, the local authorities, so that we can get the support from that location, from that even like for the paperwork, and even like we can get a volunteer. For example, when we conduct our outreach activity in the market, the minority, the weekend markets in Lào Cai near the border of China and Vietnam, for example. So when we work a lot, how say we build up the partnership with the local authorities in there, and then when we be there, and we can even like the local officers, they are volunteer for us to translate into the Hmong languages. If, for example, if in that location, in that market, most of the people there, they go into the market, they are Hmong or Zhao minorities, the ethnic group, and so we can ask the volunteer from the local officers. They can translate. They can be the translator for us. So when we say in Vietnamese, and that volunteer can speak in Hmong language, for example. And another thing that we in the market or in the school, when we conduct the outreach activities, we try to convince and give the how say the question, convince them how to interact with us with the question, and share their story. Yeah, for example, in the market, for example, and so when they come, we have the booth in at the market, and so the people walk around, and then we can ask them to share, and if they know any story about human trafficking, and someone disappear in the how say the in their villages, for example, and then from there we can get more information and let them share their story. And some cases that they say that they have this the daughter so disappeared since for like 10 years ago, and so they did not contact, they did not know where she is right now, for example. And the next things that I think that very important, that the storytelling. We always use the life stories and the testimonials to make the issue relatable and impactful when we conduct the outreach and the training. And the fourth things, and I would like to share that so when we get to that community, and we have to understand the cultures. So at a time we know that they are among people, or the Zao people, and we will understand about the culture, and we can create the message to fit the
Luan,
culture.
sorry to interrupt. We're running out of time. That's why I'm interrupting you here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just say
Okay.
what.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. And so I mean that, so our key message to the people is that they should invest themselves by education, learn about critical thinking to make a better decision, let them identify the issue, and then change the perception or attitude, and then next to their behavior. So that's what we do, and I would like to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Luan, for your insightful things. Now I have a question for all the panelists, our panelists. What are the common challenges you faced in community outreach?
Yeah, be very happy to. Thank you. So there's a number of different challenges. I think for Freedom Story, the thing that we really focus on is not only raising awareness of trafficking, but also really addressing root vulnerability. Often information by itself is not really enough, right? We all know we're supposed to eat healthy and we're supposed to exercise, but how many of us do that regularly or always eat healthy? So equipping people not only with knowledge, but also with the tools that they need to actually action that knowledge is really important. So for us, for example, teaching people about their rights, but not just saying, you have a right to education, you have a right to a safe home, but actually equipping children with the ability to access their rights and stand for their rights. And when we're working, especially with migrants from Burma, equipping them not only to know, for example, that they have the right to social welfare, but also where to go at the government level, who to speak to. And, we have translators they can bring with them that they can help kind of facilitate some of those conversations. So those have been some of our challenges and some of the ways that we've overcome them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lucy. I have another question for two other panelists also. In your experience or plans, what programs or initiatives are successful in raising awareness and preventing modern slavery? I think that Mr. Korapaswamy and Sandhya Sitola will answer on this. I'll
Yeah,
expecting
thank you so
their
much.
answer from
Yeah.
this.
See, as a government, the government is a duty bearer. So they have the more responsibility. They have to ensure particularly the interstate migrants, our target where we are working in South India, particularly this textile garment supply chain. So we engagement with based on our evidence-based study. Evidence-based study, we are engagement with the government. We sharing our findings and recommendations with some of the case study. We will take along with some of the workers, interstate migrants workers, the testimonial they share with the government. So we are make it a government is accountable. At the same time, we organizing as a multi-stakeholders consultation, because the supplier, interstate, particularly this textile garment supplier, they have the responsibility. They're making profit. So we are organizing with them, be sharing our studies and findings. Also, some of the international brands also we are organizing, we sharing our studies, findings. Also, some of the cases we rescuing in the bonded labor cases, bonded because they have the advance, then there is no minimum wage and other situation. Rescuing with support of government. Some of the other cases getting failure, but very few cases getting success. We getting release certificate, we getting their compensation. So this multi-stakeholder approach and engagement with the government getting success. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaurapaswamy. And I have one question for Ms. Sitaula. Would you like to share one short story of change from your organization, which was a result of your efforts to educate people in the community?
Yeah, so because I was talking about personal protection, I'll just like to give an example of one of that. So through this personal protection, especially in India, like when we are working through Kabaddi for protection, there were a lot of like young girls who need to participate in the program, but then because of different social norms and because of different cultural practice, it was not possible to bring to them to this post protection program. But then like slowly with our engagement with the community and with the school, we're able to bring these girls to a program, and eventually like this has not just raised their resilience but then also made them a leader, and now they are playing in different like level of sports. They are playing in the state level sports tournament, also in the national level sports tournament, but also they are highly involved in raising the advocacy kind of work and doing a lot of good work, especially to the women empowerment and to the girls empowerment. So yeah, I think that is something I would like to share.
Thank you so much, Sandhya, for your experience sharing. Now we are at the end of the panel discussion, and I would like to direct the audience that if you have any queries, please, we have 10 minutes Q&A sessions, and please direct the question to our panelists. I'd like to request our audience, what are the regional efforts in policy level to end modern from slavery, particularly worst from the child labor?
Might be I can take this question. There are some kind of regional efforts been taken forward to end the modern slavery, especially on the worst form of child labor, because we do have this regional forum, SARC forum, even though it is not very functional. They do have a SEVAC that is also very particularly working on the violence against children kind of issues, and a lot of head of state from the SAC country come together to discuss on different kind of policies related interventions, and also on the forms of child labor. So there are a few kind of policies that is especially on eradicating the worst form of child labor. For example, for Nepal, they have recently amended the hazardous list of child labor. So that is one of the things that has been taken place. But then also Alliance 8.7, like SDG goal Alliance 8.7, there is also an Alliance 8.7 platforms, and Nepal is a pathfinder country for that as well. So there are some kind of efforts being made in the regional forum, but then because of the political and other issues, SARC is not that very functional. So that there is also challenges on that. But then to come up with an uniform kind of policy in the Asia region is something difficult. Because of different kind of context and social context, and also like economic, social, cultural aspects not really been discussed on coming up with a uniform kind of policy that can be same across the region. So yeah, if any other panelists have something to add, please.
Other panelists, do you have anything to share?
It's Loan from Pacific Link Foundation. I start the question on the Q&A. And I would like to share a little bit our Pasu app, the mobile app, the worker well-being. That's the tour. The tour we run and we develop for the how say we develop the mobile app with we provide the reliable information with how we build up like the migration decision calculators, and we always updated information and the law and policies on our app, the news and the trend, and even like we convene the user to play the quizzes in of the topic about safe migration and human trafficking. And even more, we put our spotlight number in the app so that they can report and mechanism to us any cases. And even more like for the tour, we how say we develop the self-learning. We have the self-learning platform. We develop the online courses, the upskill courses like migration and online scam, the something like that. And even more, we develop the English course so that we convince the people, the user can the how say the student can study English and the languages. We prepare them before they make decision to go to work, to go to abroad for working, for example. And we even more, we develop the self migration handbook, the passport like this, to in our activity, our read activity, the training. We use this to the youth and the people in communities. So that I would like to share about what we. Thank you.
Thank you, Lone, for your answer. I'll take two more questions. One question from Dr. Aman. His question is to all the panelists, that what you think we are trying to act in such a way to that we can achieve SDG, and from your end, what are the few recommendations for that to all the panelists, including me? Lone?
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you your question. And I would like to share a little bit about so for us, based on our experience, when how say we focus on the education and ask how say and education, not only we provide a scholarship, but like we provide the skill and more information, as much reliable information in migration and human trafficking to the people. And we collaborate with the local authorities and the law enforcement, so that we can we try to how to reach out and support the victim of trafficking and the potential victim of trafficking. And even I would like to share a little bit what we're doing for the youth. We created what the youth lab. So we gather the young the student, the young population, the young group, so that they work with us, they share, and they working on developing the content, the message, so that with the how say the peer educator, so that they can share the message. And like I said, I mentioned at the beginning about we know the cultural context, so that we can develop the content and the message to the population, to the communities.
Thank you, Lone. There are lots of questions popping up in my chat box, but due to time constraint, maybe I should stop here. Thank you to all the panelists who are tirelessly working to combat the modern slavery through education, awareness, and community empowerment. Our panel discussion highlight that tackling modern slavery requires comprehensive strategy, including legal measures, awareness campaign, and the victim support services. Let's unite for free the slave. And I'd like to say that I'm sorry to not taking the questions of your. There are lots of questions coming up, and I'm getting and we are getting out of we are running out of time. That's why I have to stop our panel discussion over here.
Sudeepa ji,
Thank you so much.
Sudeepa ji, maybe
Yes.
we can take one question or one comment from a student, John Patrick Sagun.
Okay,
He has
okay.
posted it in the comment section. He's a student.
Yes,
It's
yes.
an
Oh,
interesting
sure, sure.
question. So, yeah.
Okay, sure, Kuldeep ji. Okay. Here is a question from John Patrick. He said, I am currently a student and I'm surprised that slavery still exists. This just shows how ignorant I am. I am ignorant. What are the possible causes to slavery? What I'm implying this? And it's very difficult for me to read all the questions. What I'm implying is, what are the new causes of slavery that cause it to persist until this? Maybe my net is not working.
Here, I can jump in and read it for you. Read it here.
Okay, please.
So he says, this just shows how ignorant I am. What are the possible causes of slavery? What I'm implying is, what are the new causes of slavery that cause it to persist until this generation? Not the existing cause like forced labor, other present causes, and how would this be combated at a normal person's level?
Okay.
I'm happy to jump in if that's helpful. John Patrick, thank you for your question. Thank you for being here and your interest in trafficking and slavery. So I think there's a number of different causes. So there's kind of bigger structural causes, right? The exploitation of people through very complicated now and very opaque supply chains. So everything that we have, we use, my phone, the water bottle, it's built through supply chains that are so complex that it's very difficult to provide the transparency needed to know if there are slaves working in those supply chains. And then from kind of an individual person's perspective or a vulnerable person's perspective, there's kind of vulnerabilities that individuals face as well. Things like lower education, perhaps coming from a background of poverty, perhaps a history of trafficking in that region or that area or in that family that also cause them to be vulnerable. Ways that kind of, as you put it, normal people can get involved in anti-trafficking, certainly learning more about trafficking, purchasing products that you know are made from ethical suppliers. There's lots of different companies online that are doing really great work with creating ethically made products. And, talking to friends and family about this new issue that you've learned about, I think are some kind of ways that you can get more involved.
Mr. John, hope you will get your answer. Mr. Kuldeep, should I take one more question, or should I conclude the panel discussion? Because I think that we are running out of time.
Yes, ma'am, you can conclude, please.
Okay. Our panel discussion has now concluded. I would like to request our MC, Miss Davina Durgana, for the next sessions. Over to you, Miss Durgana.
Yes, thank you. And what an excellent panel. Thank you to our panelists and our moderator. So now we're moving on to the question of economic and legal, legal empowerment, economic and legal empowerment. And the panel discussion title is Building Economic Resilience in Vulnerable Communities, where we explore strategies for creating economic opportunities for vulnerable populations, discuss microfinance initiatives, vocational training programs, and partnerships that help build financial independence and reduce exploitation risks. Our moderator for this will be Professor Ishrat Shamim, and we are very lucky to have such an impressive panel here. One of our moderator is a member of the Go NGO Committee to Combat Human Trafficking under the Ministry of Home Affairs for the government of Bangladesh. She actively took part in preparing the three national plans of action for combating human trafficking, 2012 to 2014, 2015 to 2017, and 2018 to 2022. Initiated by the Ministry of Home Affairs. She initiated the ongoing project on Gateway to Employment and Economic Empowerment for Survivors of Trafficking in 2011, which in a disaster-prone area. And she's also, again, actively taking part in more national action plans. Her leadership here with the Center for Women and Children's Studies is really incredible, and I'm looking forward to your comments on this panel. Over to you, Professor.
Good afternoon. I'm Professor Isha Shamim from Bangladesh. I'm actually the founder president of the Center for Women and Children's Studies, And we have been working on the issue of trafficking for a long time, from 1997. And we have launched Traffic Watch Bangladesh network of about more than 400 national and grassroots level organization working to combat trafficking throughout Bangladesh. And recently, we have launched another network, which is the Red Heart Campaign Network, which is actually to promote child rights of abused children, exploitation, and trafficking of children. And this is an online forum of about 169 members from home and abroad to share their experiences and best practices, like the Asia Slavery Forum is now doing. So I don't want to give a long introduction, and would like to say that we have a very rich panelists from 3 countries, especially from Nepal, India, and the Philippines. And I'm familiar with all the 3 countries in their fight for combating modern slavery. Thank you. So I would like to start my panelist session to introduce my first panelist, who is Tanka Iran, who is the Deputy Chief of Party, Windrock, Nepal, USA funding. And I would like him to present his experiences on the topic of economic on the topic of building economic resilience in vulnerable communities. So I would like to invite him over to my panelists from Nepal. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Professor. Very good morning, everyone. As Professor said, I'm Tonka Aryal from Nepal. I work with the USAID-supported project, anti-human trafficking project. It's called Hamro Samman. It's our dignity, dignity of the survivor, dignity of the people. Project. Let me introduce myself and project as per the agenda. Then I will talk a little bit about the building economic resilience in the vulnerable committees. So we have been working in this area for last around 7 years, particularly identifying the issues and identifying the victim, identifying the survivor, connecting those issues with the whole trafficking in person. Particularly, we focus on trafficking in person ecosystem that comes like prevention, protection, prosecution through partnership and the policy changes. We work with the Nepal government, providing technical support to strengthen the systems, building the mechanism that is able to counter trafficking. Similarly, we work with the civil society, building their capacity and providing technical support to make them more efficient and effective for the policy advocacy and the engagement with the government and other stakeholders. And we do partnership with the private sector because until and unless private sector is onboarded into this work, then the main the issue as the agenda of the today's discussion, building economic resilience in the vulnerable communities, how we can make them on board in the process and provide the opportunity to the survivor and the victim in that process. So we do partnership with the private sector that not only include the providing the economic empowerment opportunity, but also the advocacy on some policy reform that is really relevant to change the context of the context of working environment where there is a high risk of modern slavery practices or the vulnerability of the tips. So, introducing myself as a deputy chief of party, I am the lawyer by profession, and I am looking this issue very closely. How this issue is related with the legal and the policy framework, how policy change can help to change the situation. At the meantime, how the effective plan and programming from the government side is equally important. The one last thing I would like to highlight. I mean, at the present era, there are a number of issues that is backed by the data. Until and unless we have the evidence, we cannot really do the evidence-based advocacy with the government. The project is supporting for particularly developing the data related to the potential trafficking issues and associated. So for that, project has supported to Nepal government to develop one social management information system that is an evidence that can be utilized for the policy reform and the programming from the government side as well as the civil society and the private sector. So I would like to stop here. As per the guidance provided, I'm supposed to speak 3 minutes. Or you want to me continue with our initiative, what we have been doing?
I think you can add after the question and answer session too.
Thank you. Back to you, Professor.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your short presentation. I'd like to share also that Center for Women and Children's Studies was also partner of the Winrock funded US funded project in Bangladesh for about 3 years. Yeah. So over now to, and I think it's a good, it's a challenge also to work with the Nepal government as well as the private sector. These are real challenges to bring up policy changes in the fight against modern slavery. And I would like now to invite my next panelist, who is Vivian Isaac, who is the Program Director, Operation Red Alert, My Choices Foundation from India. Over to Vivian.
Thank you, Professor. Very happy to be on the Freedom from Slavery Forum here. And quickly, I will tell what we do. And we are based out of India, working in about 10 states in India, and possibly branching out to Nepal and Bangladesh shortly too. Now, what we have two divisions. One is, we call ourselves My Choices Foundation, and we have two divisions. One is Operation Red Alert, which takes prevention of trafficking. The other one is Operation Peacemaker. We work on the prevention of domestic violence. Now, I will be talking mostly on Operation Red Alert only. So what we do is we would like to eradicate at the grassroots level trafficking. So we work with the communities and trust and believe that the strengthening of the community is the best going forward in the prevention of trafficking, and also to ensure, economically they become resilient towards fighting the position that they are in, the vulnerability. So what we do is we train grassroots organizations, and they go out in different villages to do this community program. We call it the Safe Village Program. And this was started on after a behavior research was done, and we found out what exactly would make the changes in the community which happened. So we got insights from neuroscience and behavioral economics to research on what drives vulnerable and marginalized community to buy and sell sex. So this is a Safe Village program was built on. And then we have a pre-visit where we go into the village before we do the program and identify grassroots stakeholders. This is very important. Please understand. This will be actually help us, to move in towards economic resilience for the community. So we go into the village, identify grassroots stakeholders who would actually help us in our program, and also to sustain the program in the communities so that the village is safe. Then after the pre-visit, we go and do the Safe Village program. the Safe Village program. We spend a whole day with the school, with the boys and girls, making the boys smart boys and the girls and the guardian girls, actually making sure that they understand what trafficking is about. And for that we use comic books into the village, and these comic books have comics and stories and the roles that boy plays, the girl plays. And then we have sessions with the fathers and the mothers, making sure the fathers become good fathers, fathers who do not marry off the child before 18 years of age, who know about trafficking, who can understand and not step into unsafe territory like unsafe migration and all that. And then we have the mothers meeting too, where we make the mothers inform mothers and let them understand what trafficking is about and how it can affect the community, and also make them understand the trafficker could be someone of their own too, who will actually prey on them. So this is we use a lot of tools. We use videos. Uh, we use big flip charts like this, which go into the community and make sure that they understand trafficking about as much as possible. So, and then we have, after the fathers mothers meet, we have the school program, and after that we continue to work with them. And the major strength here is the sustainability of the program. We allow a lot of community members to be a part of our program. We call them grassroots stakeholders. We use them right from the session before we start the program, and then after 2 months we call them for a training. We equip them. We continue to monitor them, and that is how we have work touch up in the village. And now we are going flat. The identification of the village is done on a very scientific basis. It is supported by quantum technologies, which support us with highly vulnerable village list. And we go into these villages and do the Safe Village program, as I mentioned to you. Now, what next? Yeah, what next? And then we identify some of the villages where we need serious interventions more. So we call it the Step Up program. And then there must be some villages which are highly traffic prone, and that is for the Blitz. Now, Step Up program will be reinforced Safe Villages program, and the Blitz is where I would like to draw your attention is that is where we would like to synergy of all the stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders, to understand, to make the community as resilient as possible. Especially now, we are not working into the economic part of it. I understand vocational training, microfinance, agricultural support is all needed there, but we are not seriously into that. What we are doing is actually working with the community empowerment, telling them you can do it. We'll connect them to the right agencies wherever it's possible. Because last visit when I went to one of the most vulnerable villages in West Bengal was, they asked us, we do not have jobs. We have to travel out from here. And as we travel out from there, it becomes a trap for them, unsafe migration. So we need something to sustain. We need something. So that is where the community has to come forward, and that is where we are banking on. And then we have our partnerships, we have networks, we have awareness and advocacy, everything for a specific cause of making the community resilient. So we believe through our program and through our stakeholders who are working along with them, work along with them, and as the situation demands, as the villages may be too vulnerable, a lot of cases happening there, that is the place where we go much deeper, and that's the Blitz. And that will be a multi-pronged approach. We will be trying to involve as many as stakeholders possible who will come there. Could be micro enterprise, could be microfinance, could be agricultural experts, and so on and so forth. So that is our aim, to make sure that we totally eradicate trafficking from the village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The prayer call is going on, so I have unmuted. Okay, thank you very much for your very thoughtful, insights about the identifying communities, identifying villages, and then strengthening the community too. Actually, that's a very, very best practice, I think, because to have safe villages is the main idea to eradicate child marriage, which is, Bangladesh is have the highest child marriage incidence, and we cannot eradicate it. We are trying so hard. The government has all these laws and everything, but so, and also to communities, empowerment through engagement with communities so that they can track down what they want, what services are most needed. Thank you very much. So I'll go to the next panelist, who is from the Philippines, Ma Celila Wanda. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. You are the founder member of the Voice the Free, and I have been to the Philippines too. I did my master's from the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila. I know the situation in Philippines. After that, I started working with the Philippines Coalition Against Trafficking.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Question, I think. So over to you to present your...
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. Good day, everybody. My name is Maria Cecilia Oibanda Pasis. It's a very long and difficult name.
You're from the Spanish origin, yeah. 3 names.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Voice of the Free, which is actually formerly known as the Visayan Forum. Voice of the Free is a grassroots organization based in the Philippines, and for over 3 decades, we had been in the front line of protecting victims and vulnerable individuals against human trafficking in strategic transit areas like ports and airports and community. As you know already, Philippines is a sending migrant country. Our economy is heavily dependent on the remittances of our overseas contract workers, so mostly domestic workers, and spread all over the world. So the vulnerability of cross-generational, slavery-like exploitation is really in our, even in our economy and in our psyche. Recently, the Philippines also was identified as the epicenter of the pornography and online sex trafficking of children. Now, I would like to share our little contribution to this problem. One of our main strategy is our community effort called the Ventures of Freedom. It is a preventive program, community program managed and organized by the local women itself. Because for us, it is very important that the local community, especially women, actually own their own project or their own program. Most of these women is actually domestic workers and, part of the cross-generational people that I'm talking about. This program is actually addressing the economic dimension of the problem by increasing the family income through social enterprise, access to government services, to mitigate economic and cultural vulnerabilities to modern-day slavery. This is in partnership, as I said, with the government and with the business sector, like Macquarie Bank is really our partners on this, and other businesses here in the Philippines. We also involved in the national and international policy formulation, but we focus now in the localizations and implementation of policies in the localities, because government can adopt all the international standard. They can make an enabling national law, but when it comes to the localization, it's 1 million 1 million questions how we're going to implement this. We also empower girl survivors who become resilient individuals through our shelter called Center of Hope, who provides comprehensive program to the survivors. We also help survivors organize themselves and strengthen the organization called Buklod Laya, or United and Free. Beyond advocacy, we really make sure that they participate. They have programs like Enterprise and Livelihood to make sure the productive and sustainable reintegration to the society. So it's not us doing all of this, but the stakeholder themselves, the people who are affected by this problem. And lastly, our programs are other innovation is that we focus on organizing the youth movement called the I Fight movement. This is our way in investing in the empowerment of new generation. This is a youth. And we know by the fact that the youth is the one who shape really the future of the country. And we would like to address the mindset of people looking and working abroad and trying to, to educate our youth that there are possible options here in the country. At the same time, they have to be warned whatever modus operandi that the traffickers and other exploiters have in this country. So that's it. That's us. That's me. Thank you. I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation of having another dimension of seeking, of sending domestic workers abroad from the Philippines and their reintegration. In Bangladesh, but I'm representing the Organization Center for Women and Children Studies. 4 days we have been working towards reintegration of those domestic workers from Bangladesh who have returned empty-handed. But the Philippines have started that program, and I've seen way back in 1998 maybe, the migrant centers doing advocacy and awareness programs for migrants who will be going to the Middle East and to other countries. In the Philippines, I must say, are the best domestic workers in the world. You have achieved that. But Bangladesh, still we are sending unskilled workers, not empowered. What about doing empowerment for domestic workers? I'm sure you're doing pre-departure training also.
No. Well, actually, our organization was involved in crafting the decent work for domestic workers. Before even the Convention on Domestic Worker was already developed, ILO, the organization was instrumental in leading the crafting of that law. And of course, orientation is just one part of it, but the more holistic from the recruitment to reintegration.
Okay, okay. The shelter to the survivors, and
yes.
that is a very good. I think that's very much needed when they return. They really need, and the youth engagement. I think that gives another dimension of making awareness among the youth so that they engage and they don't discriminate or they don't face stigmatization when the domestic workers return. That's another issue that I think you also coping with. And I really want to congratulate all my speakers for their excellent deliberation and their sincere work in the area to free the slaves. It's actually modern slavery. We have to admit that. Slavery, old slavery has taken another, what would I say, another form, which is the modern slavery, in the guise of domestic workers being exploited, children being exploited in pornography materials, and now coming up with the online child abuse exploitation. Thank you very much for all the presentation. Thank you. Now I would like to open for question and answer session, and hope participants will have their questions in the chat box, so that I can accordingly. But before that, I have some general questions too for the participants. which are because participants were for the journal. What's that? What does economic resilience mean in the context of vulnerable communities, and only and why it is it's so critical for reducing exploitation risk for all participants. That's the general question. Now, microfinance initiatives, we have questions on that, but I think for vocational training program, microcredit was not so much in the, it was more, the presentations were more on community involvement and sustainability and for partnership and collaboration. So there are questions for the panelists, like what role do partnership play in creating sustainable economic opportunities for vulnerable population? Can you provide examples of successful collaborations? Now, that is also those who are working. I think all the panelists are working in partnership and in collaboration, either state level or grassroots level. So anyone can answer that. You're welcome to answer if you have that the answer, that to give examples of successful collaborations in partnership. Yeah,
I can try.
Yeah,
I can start. Yeah, it's Cecilia again. I think most and foremost, we need to realize that the problem of modern day slavery is economic, right? Aside from, of course, it's cultural, it's very much economic. And to decrease the vulnerability of people, we need really to address that issue. And in the case of the Philippines, that people much dependent really on the remittances abroad. We need to come up with plans on how the local communities involved in building their own economic empowerment within the community, And in our experience in Ventures for Freedom is that there are definitely local resources in the community, that can actually build the resilience economically, but the locality need really to understand where to find it. Like, for example, in one of our areas that we were able to organize and help the mothers build up their own business. And we are able to to legally institutionalize them so that they can access resources from the government, because there are resources available.
Yeah,
The thing
that's
is
a
that,
good example,
yeah,
of collaboration.
the thing is that our local community, they don't know how to access local resources. So with the partnership with the governments and even in the private sectors, even the church, even other stakeholders that holds resources, training the locality how to mobilize it, how to access it, I think it's very important. As of now, our community. Yes.
Also to approach these institutions, because these are
Yes.
quite far from the community, and they keep themselves aloof from the community. They don't go to the community to give political speeches that I'm there to help you and
True. Yeah,
so
but I think,
it's a connecting. You are connecting the local community to access the services of the government.
Yes. Yeah, but what I'm trying also to say, is that even us who are actually doing this kind of intervention need to understand that mindset, that we are only facilitator. We are not the Messiah who changed everything, but the people need to own it, right? They need to own it. They need to be empowered, because there are, like in climate change, just one struck, this one struck, there's our shock. There are economic shock that they need to hurdle and become really resilient on how they address that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From India, I think you have the community involvement program more focused on, grassroots stakeholders and the community empowerment. So you can answer this question. I think how can you ensure that the voices and needs of vulnerable communities are incorporated into the design and implementation of economic resilience programs? Thank you. Over
Thank
to
you.
the Indian participant, panelist, Isaac.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Shraddh.
Yeah.
We understand, and I agree with that the strength lies in the community themselves actually, and we need to ensure that they are given the entire support to make sure that they they have connections, they build relationship, they build everything which is possible so that they can build the community there on their own with the help. So what we do is we are encouraging these stakeholders in the community at first level of telling, at least let them understand what trafficking is about and how trafficking is affecting them community, and how like migration they could make it safe.
Yeah.
We are not asking them to not to leave the village. They can leave the community and go, but just make sure that you're going in the right
They
place.
have to be empowered. They have
Exactly.
to be well informed. I think so.
Exactly. So we are not controlling them because they have to leave. They
Also
don't
about
have
the
much.
child marriage. Also,
Exactly. Now,
you're doing with child marriage,
very true.
fathers
Very
to
true.
stop. Because in Bangladesh, the ultimate decision of children getting married earlier is the decision of the father, not the mother.
Yes,
Main
exactly.
decision maker. Yeah.
To answer that point, we are also, child marriage is also a top priority for us. So what we do is we work with the girl, we work with the boy, we work with the father, we work with the mother too, preparing them understand. Because once a child marriage is, it is finalized, it's very difficult to stop it.
Very
It's
difficult.
difficult because the parents will fall at the feet of the police.
I can share one example. We did a research where we found that because the communities are aware and there are organizations who will be stopping this type of marriage, they took the child, they took the girl to their uncle's house in another village to give her in marriage. So that becomes very difficult unless the parents are aware of the consequences. It's very difficult. You're right. Once it's arranged, it's very difficult to address it. Yeah.
So that is why the prevention part. We are telling them this is the problems with child marriage. Please delay the marriage, allow the child to study, and we tell the boys, we tell the girls, we tell the father and the mother. So when the offer does come, they are ready to say at least no, not now, later. So that's how we spread. So end of the day, we would like to prepare the community to understand that this challenge of economic resilience, they have to build themselves. Yes, we will provide with all the external support, the government agencies, we just want to make sure that they begin to relate and talk to them, because they are afraid of the government organization. They would not like to talk to anyone. So the private partners, the government partners, we involve them in our program, let them understand, yes, the government is there, the private companies are there to help, but we need to bring all together, and then hopefully it'll be a win-win situation for all.
Thank you very much for your and about one question I have about the innovative approaches. Are there any innovative approaches or techniques being used to enhance economic opportunities for vulnerable communities, and how can we leverage digital tools to support these initiatives? That will be focused on Windrock, I think. Deputy Chief of Party, how do you say you?
Okay. Yes, Tanka Orial. Yes, thank you.
From Nepal. Because Windrock, I'm sure you are working with many partners, and I'm sure you can have innovative approaches where with digital focus on some of the programs. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I missed to share some of our activity at the beginning. I thought that I will get another chance to share my work, but let me see a couple of minutes about that. Then I will come to your questions. Particularly, Windrock, Hamro Samman work with the private sector and number of CSOs. So in that case, our focus about the economic, resiliency or economic empowerment, we have taken two approaches. One is even it was discussed before, the adequate information is really important because the service or the opportunities only cannot be generated only from the civil society and the CSO side. There are huge opportunity within the government as well. If any survivor, victim, at-risk population get adequate information on time, they can access the government provided services and the benefits from the government side as well. So in that purpose, we have been closely working with the local government where there are some committees countering trafficking in person. It's called like LCCSTs. This committee closely work with the government as well as the survivor group and provide information to access the resources from the government side. So let me talk about particularly what the project is doing. So in that case, we have taken the two approaches. One is once the victim and survivor are in the community, it is really hard to, as we discussed before, the sustainable reintegration. The basic things come in front of the survivor and the victim. It is the basic need and the services like food, shelter, health services, and other services. So in that case, project is collaborating with the the private sector and the government to access the certain services that are offered in the subsidized rate and the free of cost from the private sector. More than 350 private businesses offer that sort of services through this business directory, business, the private sector service directory. That services can be accessed through that process, and the project is facilitating for that. Similarly, the project is collaborating with the private sector. Until and unless there is income for the survivor, they cannot really go back to the society and live even with the families. In many cases, families also kick out them from the society and the family because that is the issue of some sort of taboo. Particularly I'm talking about the
how many partners, may I ask you how many partners you have in Nepal?
Actually, it frequently changes, but we have been working with more than 30 organizations in the private sector.
Okay.
So in that case, on the job training.
These are NGOs. These are NGOs or CPOs.
NGOs and the private sector.
Okay.
And counseling, psychosocial counseling matter, then orientation on the job turn, the training and the economic empowerment and the job opportunities. Then similarly, we have been working.
It's a holistic approach.
Yes. Not only that, like those people who are not able to go and work with the other, outside business, we are supporting them to work from their home. We provide them the training, then raw materials that are locally available. Then they produce some handicraft sort of things, and the buyback guarantee does by the project. So in that case, it is ensured that there is no financial loss for the survivor, and they will get opportunity to generate some money and they live in a society with some sort of economic, sort of backup. So not only that, we are providing some seed money to the survivor to do their own business. If they are doing some bit larger scale business or some service through the entrepreneurship idea, we are linking them with the businesses, private sector and the bank where these corporate social account responsibility funds are available, and we are trying to link those funds to benefit the survivor, and some sort of subsidized loan is provided by the bank and the microfinance, as well as some sort of philanthropic support from the businesses are available for them. So in that case, the survivor are getting opportunities to be more economically sustained. About this, new trend and the use of technology for the economic empowerment, the question you raised. To be honest, at the moment, we have been just thinking like how we can incorporate that idea within our project and make the things like available for the survivor that can be utilized by the survivor for their economic empowerment.
For example, digital literacy.
Yes,
coming up
this
in
is a
Bangladesh now. Yeah.
true. And the only problem, like the survivor, particularly mostly are illiterate and they are
That's the
not
problem.
that much able to use the
We
technology.
need to have a different module of digital
Yes.
literacy for them.
Yeah, I'm not
I
generalizing
don't
the
think
things.
anyone has come up with an alternative digital literacy for those who are less literate or
Yeah,
illustrative type of thing.
true. Nowadays, even the highly educated, even the IT professionals are also trafficked from Nepal to some of the countries in East Asia. Probably you know about it. So in that case, those people are definitely able to use that modern technology, use ICT for the economic
Still they are.
development.
Yeah.
But in
Ma'am
general,
and Tankaji, I'm so sorry to interrupt you both. I think we are over time for the next session.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we can close this discussion and then we can
Yeah.
move on to the
So
presentation, please.
yeah, thank you very much for reminding me. We can have now question and answer session for coming from the audiences. If they have any questions, they can give it in the comment box for particular panelists or general questions for all panelists.
Professor
Yes, we can
Shamim,
move.
please suggest
Yeah.
that the panelist can answer the questions in the Q&A session. So panelists, please proceed to type in your answers to the questions, and we can move
that
to the
would
next.
be better. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you, ma'am. Over to Ms. Davina.
Yes, thank you so much. That was excellent. Okay, now moving on, we are up to our case study presentation on successful legal interventions in Asia, where a successful legal intervention against modern slavery in Asia will be presented by Nichaya Laufan. Laufan? Lauhafan?
Lauhafan, yes.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Let me just introduce you briefly. So, Nichaya is a New York qualified lawyer. She started practicing corporate law in the US and then joined React Asia in 2023 as a program manager. And she was previously a legal officer for Liberty Shared, which was formerly known as Liberty Asia in Hong Kong. She's managed legal resource centers, regional legal impact hubs in Cambodia, Hong Kong, and Thailand, and has really used her legal expertise to try to bring together multiple stakeholders and to really work very closely with the Remedy Project that looks at exactly this, leveraging platforms and legal knowledge to strengthen civil society organizations and migrant-led organizations in Southeast Asia. So over to you, Nichaya.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I'm very short on time, so apologies if I'm zooming through this. So what I'll talk about is kind of our role as a region coordinator of the Freedom Fund's corporate accountability ecosystem building program and some work of our partners in the region around corporate accountability. So corporate accountability in cases of forced labor is fundamental to the systemic eradication of modern slavery. However, we haven't seen much actions by the local labor rights or anti-modern slavery organizations taking up on corporate accountability strategies. Most of these NGOs focus primarily on seeking financial compensation from individual perpetrators and do not actively consider pursuing upstream corporate accountability strategies. But with emerging enforceable standards for responsible business conduct and growing number of legal actions against multinational companies, there is a momentum to foster accountability and seek remedy for global supply chain workers. Go to the next slide. Actually, just skip to slide 3. It's okay. One more. So before discussing about different corporate accountability strategy, it is important to look at the two concepts first, which is accountability and access to remedy. Are they the same thing? Access to remedy refers to both the process of providing remedy and the substantive outcomes, while the accountability, on the other hand, refers to taking a responsibility for actions and being answerable to those affected. And next slide. So in practice, it may be difficult to disentangle these two, as many of the remedies that you can see on this slide, such as fines, apologies, or compensation, can be important for corporate accountability as well. And at the same time, accountability can be an important element of an effective remedy as well. So it is important to remember that while the delivery of effective remedies in a specific case is an important aspect of accountability, it may not represent the totality of what is needed if there is to be full accountability and vice versa. For example, a fine may be important for signaling accountability to the public at large, but it may not account to an effective remedy to those who are most directly affected by human rights violations. Next slide, please. Corporate accountability strategies can be pretty much grouped into 4 buckets. The state-based judicial mechanisms, the state-based non-judicial grievance mechanisms, such as the OECD national contact points or the CBP petition, which we'll look at this in the example that I'll give later, the non-state-based judicial grievance mechanisms, which can include company-level grievance mechanisms and multi-stakeholder initiative, and last, which is the non-state-based and non-judicial grievance mechanism, such as arbitration. So while effective judicial mechanisms are at the core of ensuring access to remedy, many other kinds of non-judicial grievance mechanisms also play an important complementary role. So under this remedy ecosystem approach, we should focus on how various mechanisms can contribute to the broader remedial effect and efforts, and not on what individual mechanisms can or cannot do to provide remedy. So different forms of remedies may be needed, and perhaps in combination, such as affected stakeholders may raise a grievance with a company-based mechanism, while also cooperating with a regulatory body, such as a labor department, with a view to ensuring proper enforcement of certain legal standards that have been breached. Next slide, please. So we have yet to see much around corporate accountability in cases of modern slavery in the region, but there are definitely progress that our CSO partners that are part of the Freedom Fund's corporate accountability ecosystem program have made, one of which is the land grabbing and forcible displacement of villagers in Cambodia. So in 2008, Midpon Sugar Corporation, a Thailand-based multinational company and one of the largest sugar producers in the world, obtained land concessions in Cambodia through its Cambodian subsidiaries. Right after the concessions were granted, there were allegedly human rights abuses such as land confiscation, livestock killing, crop looting, and so on. So the affected communities and the CSO, a few CSO partners together, have been using various corporate accountability strategies to access remedy for more than a decade, including state-based non-judicial mechanisms, and now state-based judicial mechanism, which is the first ever class action lawsuit filed in Thai courts. Next slide. So this is just to illustrate the different approaches and pathways that the CSOs and the affected villagers have pursued. First, Midpoint is a member of Bonsucro, which is a UK-based multinational and multi-stakeholder sustainable sugarcane industry initiative. The CSOs initially filed a complaint against Midpoint to the Bonsucro grievance mechanism, requesting Bonsucro to resolve the case through adequate compensation. And if such a resolution could not be reached, then to expel Midpoint from the organization for breaching its code of conduct. Eventually, Bonsucro's board dismissed the complaint without taking any action. Then subsequently, the CSO pursued a state-based non-judicial mechanism, which is the OECD National Contact Point for responsible business conduct. The OECD guidelines set certain standards for responsible business conduct across a range of issues, such as human rights, labor rights, and environment. And for countries that are OECD members, also establish a government-backed grievance mechanisms to help resolve disputes between companies that are covered by the OECD guidelines and individuals or groups that are harmed by irresponsible business conduct. So the CSOs lodged a complaint against Bonsucro with the UK National Contact Point, because Bonsucro is a UK-based entity, and essentially asked the UK NCP to hold Bonsucro accountable to its own human rights responsibilities in line with the OECD guidelines. So depending on the scope and activities of these initiatives, the kinds of remedies that may be available from this type of certification-based initiative is revocation of membership or imposition of conditions on continuing membership, for example. Therefore, one of Bonsucro's responsibilities under the OECD guidelines could be to revoke membership and leverage its position with its member to address human rights concerns, which they failed to do. The UK NCP eventually found that Bonsucro breached the OECD guidelines and the UNGP. However, the work of NCP is simply a set of recommendations and not legally binding. NCP doesn't have the authority to issue legally binding orders or impose any penalties. They instead seek to resolve grievances by using dialogue-based methods such as mediation to facilitate agreements. What this meant was Bonsucro was not compelled to provide a remedy to the affected villagers. So what else can be done? While these efforts were ongoing, the CSOs pursue a different state-based non-judicial mechanism and filed a complaint against Mitpon with the National Human Rights Commission of Thailand. National human rights institutions are state bodies tasked to protect and promote human rights. They can play an important role in relation to access to remedies such as fact-finding, recommending appropriate measures, or providing guidance in order to prevent and redress human rights violations. So the commission issued the final investigation report, which clearly stated that human rights violations occurring on the concession lands were the direct responsibility of Mitpon, and the company had an ongoing responsibility to provide compensation and other appropriate remedies for the losses and human rights impacts, despite having already ceased its operation in Cambodia. Although the mandate was of limited effectiveness since the Human Rights Commission lacks sufficient power to enforce its recommendations, the effects of making such recommendations and release of public statements by national human rights institutions should not be underestimated, and eventually the findings will be used as part of the litigation. Another important strategy that I would like to point out that cannot be left out and is often used in Asia is the parallel ground strategy of advocacy campaign and buyer engagement. Brands have leverage, and it is within their human rights responsibilities to use it. In this case, CSOs engage with the company's buyers, such as Coca-Cola and Nestle, for example, to use their leverage to influence Mitpon to remediate the human rights violations that it caused. Brands do have a substantial impact on improving treatment of workers. There are a number of cases in the garment industry in Thailand where local CSOs engage with buyers and brands either through direct engagement or media campaign, which result in compensation to the affected workers. And with media spotlight on the case, it can have a ripple effect and do improve the working conditions of other factories in the area as well. So where are we now? The Bangkok South Civil Court recognized the class action status in 2020 and allowed the affected families to bring the case as a group to the home country of Mitpon in Thailand. The complaint contends that Mitpon's actions amount to tortious acts, and the company's acts and omissions result in breaches of both Cambodia's and Thailand's international human rights obligations. This is similar to the type of tort claims that we have seen in the recent years before the English courts in an attempt to test the boundaries of corporate liability. Typically, such claims will seek to hold a parent company liable for the actions or lack of action of its foreign subsidiaries, including those within the broader value chain. Another similar case to watch out for is the allegation against Dyson brought by 24 migrant workers from Nepal and Bangladesh concerning the alleged forced labor abuses while working in the facilities operated by Malaysian suppliers Dyson. So very similar to this case, Dyson did not itself own the relevant facilities or employ these workers, but was alleged to be liable for various torts and by way of unjust enrichment as a result of the high degree of control that it exercised over the manufacturing operations and the employment practices of the supplier. So in other words, Dyson was alleged to be liable for the activities of suppliers outside of its corporate group, but within its broader value chain. So it is a well-established principle that each company in a corporate group has a separate legal personality, and a parent company is therefore not generally responsible for the acts of omission of its subsidiaries. However, as a matter of tort law, the way a parent company operates and interacts with its subsidiaries can lead to it assuming a duty of care to third parties at risk of harm from the acts or omissions of their subsidiaries. So as a reflecting on this case, it really provides a valuable lesson, for CSO pursuing cross-border corporate accountability actions in the region. It takes a combined and concerted effort of the affected families, the CSOs, and the relevant stakeholders across multiple jurisdictions and multiple pronged strategies to seek remedy for human rights violations. In this case, failure to secure remedy through other pathways, in fact, serve as a springboard for the villagers to file a lawsuit. It remains to be seen how this case will turn out. So regardless of the outcome, this case can change the legal landscape already, providing that class action legislation can be used in transboundary. So this case brings to everyone's attention that in this part of the world, there may be possibility that multinational companies can be held legally accountable in their home states for human rights abuses committed abroad and can no longer ignore the conducts of their subsidiaries and what goes on in the entire value chain. It will be a key test of corporate accountability. And this brings me to my last point, if I have maybe 1 minute on the next slide, on some important considerations when evaluating claims for remedies. So I've listed out different things to consider on the different options, but really one of the most important thing is, are the outcomes in the client's best interests? A rights-based approach is of utmost importance, from working as CSO practitioners. Affected stakeholders should be consulted on their chosen pathway, and victims must be fully informed at every stage of the process, including about what they can expect, what is and is not possible, and to have the opportunity to provide consent before any action is taken on their behalf, giving them as much control and sense of personal agency as is feasible. And also, as equally important, who are the parties to the claims? As we see earlier, are there ways to leverage big brands? You can certainly use that and shorten the long process of a legal process as well. And the last that is one of the important challenge in the region is the resources and capacities of CSOs and other stakeholders. Many of our CSO partners are involved in litigation that last over a decade. Do you have enough resources and capacity to sustain your course of action? Do you need to seek external funding? It is a costly process when it comes to cross-border actions. Investigation needs money. Document needs to be translated into more than one languages. Witnesses and expert witnesses need to travel to testify. The cost of lawyers, the cost of court fees, they all add up. And what about the long-term support of those families who will be part of this long journey? And the last slide, what about the victims' other human rights? Safety is also important. In a corporate accountability case, do you have resources and support to defend against harmful corporate retaliation, such as strategic lawsuit against public participation? Really, therefore it's the understanding of the victim's needs should go in tandem with the evaluations of the claims that you decide to pursue. Thank you.
We've had a small change to our schedule, but thank you very much for that presentation. And we'll actually have our second case study presented now as well, which I think flows just as well. This is again another legal expert who will be presenting on support for survivors. And this is attorney Christine K. Lazarito Kalinjin. She's based in the Philippines, and she has been working with Balad Mindanao, apologies, Mindanao, or the Ballet Alternative Legal Advocates for the Development of Mindanao. It's a legal NGO that provides capacity building and legal services. And she works as the Chief Gender and Development Specialist and head of the pilot field office of the Philippine Commission on Women. In her 15 years and in her capacity as a lawyer, she's been involved in case handling and monitoring gender-based violence and human trafficking cases and providing policy development around legal support. So, and especially joining rescue missions for trafficked women and girls. So over to you, Christine.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good day, good morning, everyone. So thank you for making Balaod part of this forum. Unlike the previous sharer, my discussion or my presentation focuses on legal empowerment for victim survivors locally. You know, there is a need to know as well what are the legal assistance that victim survivors of human trafficking usually need. Well, I'd like to also wait. I hope my screen is clear. So I think it's not moving. Okay. So anyway, for proceed, I'd like to share to you what Balaod is. Balaod Mindanao is a based or Philippines through alternative lawyering and paralegalism for advancement of this and served, who are oftentimes the target of social issues. As the number of human trafficking cases began to rise, particularly in northern Mindanao, where Balaod is stationed, it was undoubtedly necessary to be involved. More so, awareness of these problems is still quite low. And there was indeed a dearth of knowledge about this concern. Hence, Balaod launched its anti-human trafficking awareness campaign in 2015. So we've been doing this for almost a decade. And Balaod, as a legal resource NGO, focuses on provision of legal empowerment. As mentioned a while ago by the previous speaker, litigation, filing of cases, prosecuting, and even the legal claim for human trafficking is very expensive. We need lawyers, we need resources. This is where Balaod comes in. But the definition of legal empowerment insofar as Balaod Mindanao is concerned, this extends beyond the measures taken inside the formal bounds of the legal system. This entails empowering communities through sharing and enhancing the knowledge and capacity of their members in utilizing judicial and even quasi-judicial mechanisms to ensure protection of rights. Balaod combines the grassroots empowerment primarily through education, awareness raising, and litigation support coupled with policy development and reform that engages different stakeholders and branches of the government. So basically, the legal empowerment that Balaod Mindanao has been doing is not just provision of legal support in times of litigation, in case of case prosecution. This starts with awareness raising, policy awareness raising, and this will proceed to case prosecution and, of course, the meta-legal intervention. I will discuss that later, but before that, let me share to you the education awareness caravan. Like the previous sharers a while ago, the panelists, they shared how they the campaign against human trafficking, the involvement of the grassroots community. That is also what Balaod Mindanao believe into. So Balaod truly believes in community paralegal education and formation, and it is indeed its strongest pursuits. Historically, paralegals have played a significant role in promoting and developing concrete remedies for social injustices in their communities. Thus, Balaod focuses on educating and raising awareness primarily among the youth, the students, who are vulnerable victims of human trafficking. This initiative expands to include legal awareness of community leaders and service providers to better address and support the victim survivors. So Balaod has been conducting awareness and educational campaign to students, teachers, and parents in several national public high schools and institutions, specifically providing learning sessions and awareness campaigns. Of course, these talks about the laws, specifically what is human trafficking, what is modern day slavery, and as well as how to address this, how to prosecute this legal issue. To community leaders such as youth leaders, barangay or community elected officials, barangay council for the protection of children, advocates, and volunteers. And Balaod also has been helping service providers like social workers, NGO staff, shelter personnel, and house parents to better understand the issue on human trafficking and other gender-based violence. You see, these service providers are oftentimes part of the prosecution team, being witnesses presented before the court during trials. Okay? So, what is the importance of legal or policy awareness raising? Balaod is being true to its vision to make a society where legal empowerment is a way of life and as a means to protect and advance the people's access to resources and justice. Balaod believes that no person, profession, nor institution has monopoly on the law, and that the law should be democratized to allow laypersons to have good foundation and the basics of law is something to be attained. The empowerment of the people should allow them not only to have a surface level knowledge, but a deeper understanding of what the law is, how it works, and how to allow the common person to identify what laws are at play and what are the grounds and procedures that follow. Anti-human trafficking campaign of Balaod tries to attain the empowerment of the youth by engaging them at a grassroots level and as early as grade schools. As this time, they are the most vulnerable of being taken advantage by individuals and syndicates who prey on their innocence. So these are the example of Balaod campaign caravan on anti. So aside from the awareness campaign in school and community-based, Balaod also promoted the campaign through Concert for a Cause, where it invited celebrities and national preventing human trafficking. This is also because of the high influence of these personalities. So it aimed to raise awareness as well and expand the coverage of this campaign. Now let's go to the second initiative, which is case prosecution. Balaod's legal empowerment work includes strategic litigation and collaboration with other development organizations and stakeholders. As mentioned a while ago, collaboration is also very crucial in addressing and promoting campaign and trafficking. These strategies are imperative. A holistic approach in closing the gap on access to justice, empower grassroots community, and attain social justice. While legal empowerment is essentially anchored on knowledge sharing, case prosecution is likewise viewed as a crucial arm in attaining its goal of exposing and eradicating human trafficking. Prosecution is also a pathway to bring change and empower at the grassroots level, especially when the marginalized sector and the victims actively take part in it. For Balaod, case prosecution includes case build-up, case monitoring, evidence gathering, and even filing of relevant cases. It started the filing of further cases in one of the trafficking cases that Balaod was actively involved in. Aside from the public prosecutors actively managing the human trafficking case, Balaod was the one that filed the cases rather related to obstruction of justice and even an administrative cases against the defenders of the perpetrators. As a legal resource NGO, Balaod provides legal services, which entails provision of for on case prosecution actively handled by the state prosecutors. So you see, we do not actively handle cases, but these are because these cases are being handled by the public prosecutors. However, Balaod still provides legal support as we initiate and facilitate conferences, dialogues, not just with victims, but this includes their families, and as well as the civil society organizations and individuals promoting child protection and prosecution of child offenders. Balaod's legal support on child protection prosecution is not confined to working for the victims, but rather working with the victims. So by the way, the usually sexual exploitation, I've been mentioning child victim survival. In addition, itself on imparting the know-how, but also provides the necessary legal support beyond the prosecution of cases. As victim survivors of human trafficking may decide to file cases against their respective perpetrators, the crimes of which fall under public interest, fall within the domain of this prosecution. The prosecution schedule cannot be to crime jam-packed. So that being so, they are unable to explain the legal implication of filing the case and the detailed procedure, the legal procedure of the legal system. Thus, Balaod fills this role by explaining to the victim survivor, even the family, of what is happening to the cases and what can be the likely outcome or result of these cases. This approach allows the victim survivors and their family to be properly informed of what is happening to their cases. The same approach goes to service providers, as these will become the witnesses of the cases. These are the strategies employed by Balaod when it actively provided legal case of civil, including, of course, human trafficking. Method, also known as ethics, which refers to using legal measures that are outside the judicial system, such as dialogue, negotiation, filing of petition with administrative cases, and group measures or pressure, which includes protest march, show of support or visibility during hearings, meta-legal strategies involve a combination of purely legal work with actually considered legal work. So as one of the meta-legal tactics of Balaod in its campaign against human trafficking, a loose coalition of advocates against sex offenders in Cagayan de Oro was formed. It is called Cagayanon Against Sex Offenders, or CASO, which is also a Cebuano word for case. This coalition of advocates and volunteers actively joined the case monitoring while visibly showing support during court hearings, press conferences, shelter visitation, and other collaborative actions. Uses its networks and linkages to development organizations to create a more holistic approach to achieving its goals of empowering, exposing, and eradicating human trafficking. And this is also the theme of this forum: how to empower, how to expose, and how to eradicate human trafficking. So for instance, Balaod Inc. partnership with agreement with the Provincial Division of the Department of Education to institutionalize legal trainings, distribution of IEC materials, and formulation of referral system in dealing with human trafficking cases. So with all of these, Balaod believes in the promotion of human rights and paralegalism as principal strategies in addressing resource tenure and access to justice. This means that community advocates themselves are the primary stakeholders in achieving greater access to justice. The role of community of advocates will certainly close the gap how to access justice by enhancing their knowledge and understanding on laws, policies, and causes of socioeconomic as well as cultural system affecting them, and by sharpening their skills on assessment and policy formulation, the members will be empowered to effectively address their community concerns such as human trafficking. So it is very important to harness the relationship with other organizations as we continually endeavor to address human trafficking, particularly with groups that have more in-depth expertise, services, resources, and even sharing of best practices among organizations. The commitment to address human trafficking requires enhanced legal knowledge, recognition of the legal empowerment, partnership, policy development, and localization and implementation of programs by partner communities will certainly sustain the initiatives. So Balaod Mindanao is gratified to share some of the partner communities who were able to formulate local policy, referral system, even replicated the campaign with local context, such as the house-to-house campaign as shown in the picture. So this is the result of Balaod's intervention. They now do their own campaign at the local level. Indeed, with legal empowerment, expanding its coverage, employing meta-legal tactics with the active involvement of partners will be a key factor in addressing human trafficking. Before I'll end, I just want to emphasize that empowerment is the most effective and sustainable way to improve the lives of others. It could be legal empowerment, economic empowerment, and it requires collaborative efforts, especially among the stakeholders. So thank you so much and good day, everyone.
Thank you. So now we're going to move back on the agenda, but into our panel on empowering survivors and workers. This panel will discuss the crucial role of survivors and workers in leading anti-trafficking initiatives, and they'll share their personal experiences, challenges, and successes in advocacy and community mobilization. The moderator for this panel is James Arputharaj, and he's been working to address the issue of bonded labor in India while being country director of AID Action, which is Action AIDS, since 1987. And later he was actually one of our South Asia program managers for Free the Slaves. He was on the executive committee for the World Federalist Movement, and he's addressed UN treaties and conventions as the president of South Asian Federalists. He's worked in mostly conflict and post-conflict countries like Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and South Sudan, and served as CEO for 21 years with leading INGOs like ActionAid, Oxfam, Novib, Lutheran World Relief, Mennonites, the Johanniter, and Intersos, among many others. This is such an impressive background. Thank you for joining us. And now he's serving in his capacity as country director of the Asian Youth Center. So thank you. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Davina. Thanks to Free the Slaves for giving me this opportunity. It is nice to come back to Free the Slaves. I suppose we have only about less than 30 minutes. So we'll quickly go on the agenda. We have today 3 excellent speakers. Mr. Brijesh Kumar is the convener of Azad Sakti Abhiyan from India. And then we have Marisoy Kyomko, Secretary of TISACA. And then we have Kranti Tamang, with Development Officer of Shanti Foundation. So we will go in the order of Philippines, which is furthest from Sri Lanka. and then we'll climb the Nepal mountains, and then we'll come down to India. Just a little bit about my work. I'm working in Puttalam, where there is forced labor in the fishing industry, especially child labor. And then in the tea estates, many of you would have tasted Sri Lankan tea. Behind those tea are, generations of slavery. Generations together, the plantation workers are being bonded to the plantation managers, and they get only $3.5 to $4 a day, and they live in row houses like South Africa, 20 to 30 feet, and the medical facilities are quite limited. So that's the background. And I always believe that trafficking in women, and trafficking in guns and drugs, they all go together across the border. I'm also passionate about gun control in the regions. So now over to Philippines. We have with us Marisol Cuamco. Please, you can take 3 minutes. Marisol there? Otherwise, we'd go to Kranti Tamang, and then we come back to Marisol. Kranti?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, everyone. This is Kranti. I work with Shanti Foundation, a Nepal-based nonprofit established and led by women trafficking survivors living with HIV. Our vision is a world free of stigma and discrimination, where all human trafficking survivors and those affected by HIV and AIDS can lead lives of quality, productivity, equity, and freedom in society. Our work majorly focuses on prevention and policy advocacy with meaningful survivor engagement and leadership at our heart. Shanti Foundation has been working for 8 years in counter-trafficking space in Nepal and works closely with the government of Nepal at all 3 tiers. We also work with law enforcement, survivors, donor agencies, civil societies, private sector official, and survivor networks, including other stakeholders to combat trafficking in Nepal. It's a pleasure to be here today to share our experience and learn from everyone in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Kranti. I see that Mirasol has come back. Welcome back, Mirasol. It's your turn now.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure, and I am very grateful that I have been one of the panelists for the 2024 Asia Regional Freedom from Slavery Forum. So good afternoon, everyone. I am once again Mirasol Cuamco from Tisaka Organizations. It is based from Cagayan de Oro City, Philippines. Tisaka Organization, or Voice of the Enlightenment, is a non-profit organization here in Cagayan de Oro City. And it was built on October 28, 1998. So we are advocating here in City Hall for almost 26 years. In furtherance of our advocacy, we are giving education programs to provide assistance to women and children bonded by common ideals and desires to stop sexual discrimination and oppression in the situation of prostitution. And we are very grateful that we have been in this forum for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mirasol. And we go over to Brijesh now. Brijesh, you are there? Yes.
सभी को नमस्कार। मेरा नाम ब्रिजेश कुमार बनवासी है। मैं 5000 में 5 परिवार 3 साल हम लोग बंधुआ मजदूर थे।
Don't worry, there will be a translation.
Yeah, I'm helping Brijesh in translating.
Hi, Banuja.
Yes, namaste, sir. My name is Brijesh Vanwasi. I live in Bhadohi district in Uttar Pradesh, and I have worked as a bonded labor for more than 3 years in lieu of just 5,000 rupees. हाँ ब्रिजेश जी आगे बताइए।
जी सर। आजाद शक्ति अभियान उत्तर भारत के आजाद शक्ति अभियान उत्तर भारत का एक संगठन है। से ज्यादा 400 से ज्यादा बंधुआ मजदूरों के साथ इन प्रथा के खिलाफ संघर्ष कर रहे हैं।
ठीक। I represent a survivors collective named Ajad Shakti Abhiyan. This Abhiyan is a an organization with the membership of more than 400 individuals who are either ex-bonded laborers, either human trafficking victims, or debt bondage survivors.
आजाद शक्ति अभियान वर्तमान में 5 जनपदों में सक्रिय है और उन समुदाय की मदद के लिए काम कर रहे हैं जो बंधुआ श्रम, कर्ज बंधुआ और मानव तस्करी और बाल श्रम के खतरे में हैं।
Sorry.
Banuja, you unmute.
Yeah. Ajad Shakti Abhiyan is active in 5 districts of northern part of India, and Ajad Shakti Abhiyan help the communities who are the victim or vulnerable to debt bondage, bonded labor, human trafficking, and child labor.
आजाद शक्ति अभियान के हम सभी सदस्य खुद आधुनिक दासता के शिकार रहे हैं, इसलिए हमें बेहतर पता है कि बंधुआ बंधुआ लोगों का दर्द क्या है और उनके लिए हम किस तरह का कदम उठाने की जरूरत है।
Ajad Shakti Abhiyan itself an organization of the survivors of bonded laborers who had witnessed, who had experienced the pain of modern day slavery, pain of bonded labor, and we better know what should be done for us.
एक सामाजिक संस्था द्वारा विगत 1.5 दशकों में मुक्त कराए गए बंधुआ श्रमिकों को सहयोग किया गया और आज यह संगठन आधुनिक दासता के शिकार लोगों की मुक्ति और आजादी के लिए 2015 से लगातार सक्रिय रहा है।
Our organization Ajad Shakti Abhiyan is formed in 2015, and mainly the members are the bonded labor survivors, and we support the people who come out from bonded labor, who are the victim of bonded labor and human trafficking. Thank you, Birjesh ji.
Thank you. And Banuja, please be there because there are follow-up questions. Banuja, you would be in a better position to answer this. Especially, you have seen the various leadership given for the bonded labor movement. In terms of survivors-led leadership, how do you rate the survivors-led leadership in comparison to other kinds of leadership provided for the bonded labor movement?
ब्रजेश जी, क्या आप ये बताने की कोशिश कर सकते हैं कि आपने अपनी आजादी के बाद अपने जैसे लोगों के अंदर किस तरीके के नैतिक क्षमता को पैदा करने की कोशिश की? फिर मैं जोड़ूंगा आपके इस जवाब में, ब्रजेश जी।
सर, जब से हम भट्टे से आजाद हुए, उसके आजाद होने के बाद, मुक्त होने के बाद स्वयं उस दर्द से उस दर्द और उस पीड़ा को हम खुद झेले हैं। उसको हम झेल करके आज हम सोचे कि हमारे जैसे अभी लाखों हजारों लोग भी इस स्थिति में फंसे हुए हैं।
I'm bonded laborers. I was a bonded laborer. I was rescued by someone. There are millions of the people who are living in such situation. I realized that yes, I liberated from the situation of bonded labor. So I should help and I should go ahead to help others. हाँ ब्रिजेश
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Banuja, and thank you, Brijesh. Now we go to certain questions. And we have Mirosol. Mirosol, I want to ask you from your experience at the community mobilization. Can you say something about, I mean, what you learned? I mean, what kind of key successes you have in community mobilization? Visual? Mirosol, you have to unmute yourself. Mirosol, Kyomko, Tisaka, you are there? Can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, we go to Kranti Tamang. Kranti, can you give some personal engagement of yours in this whole struggle? Can you give your personal experience?
Sorry, there's been disturbance. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
Can you
personal
repeat that?
experiences.
Personal experiences with survivor leadership?
Yes.
Sure. I think my personal experiences with survivor leadership started with Shanti Foundation, which in itself is a survivor-led organization. I entered into anti-trafficking in, I think when I was in my high school, because my mother is a sex trafficking survivor living with HIV. I was born and raised in this community. So I always shared a deep personal attachment with my community. And it was also a time when my mother actually pushed me into anti-trafficking, that you have to work in this movement. And now as I realize, and when I realize it now, I think it has a lot to do with what many survivors face as common challenges working in anti-trafficking, but also coming into survivor leadership. And that was also mentioned by earlier speakers, like lack of education, confidence, and technical competencies needed to make their voices heard. Often we see that people either don't listen to them or listen but then disregard that issue. So education was something that was always emphasized to me to support our community and amplify our voices. But when we talk about survivor leadership in anti-trafficking movement and our experiences with survivors leading the movement, I think one of the major thing that the anti-trafficking movement have forgotten is how do we know what we know in anti-trafficking?
Yeah.
We always need to understand that what we know is from survivors, those with lived experiences of trafficking. And survivors are much more than just their stories. They are much more than just their past. And they are much more than the reports, statistics, and paperwork that we present in conferences or at our offices. They have so much more to say. They can do so much and give back to their communities. Their experiences are very valuable treasures that can help save the anti-trafficking movement, to improve the support services that we provide for survivors, to make our strategies effective to combat this crime. Because like Brijesh was mentioning, survivors are expert of their issues. And I think journalizing this and institutionalizing within the anti-trafficking movement is very necessary. And that is what Shanti Foundation movement has always been at our heart, that survivors lead this movement across every sector.
So thank you, Kranti. You really responded excellently well. Much appreciated. Mirosol, can you unmute yourself now? Or are you there? Mirosol? Okay, Brijesh, maybe you could say about your challenges. I mean, as a survivor, to form this organization, you would have faced a lot of challenges. I know that you are also a member of the district committee, government committee for this. So I have met you in person in the field. So I know you would have passed the road of challenges. Maybe just one or two you can say, please.
ब्रिजेश जी, सर ये पूछ रहे हैं कि आजाद शक्ति अभियान का जो है, उस संगठन को मजबूत बनाने के लिए, खड़ा कराने में क्या क्या चुनौतियां एक सर्वाइवर के रूप में आपको आई हैं। और सर ये भी बोल रहे हैं कि आप जिला
I'm
बंधुआ
so sorry,
निगरानी
I cannot hear anything.
Yeah,
रहे हैं।
you can mute yourself, please, for a minute. Yeah.
तो हाँ ब्रिजेश जी, कुछ चुनौतियों के बारे में बताइए।
चुनौती के बारे में तो ऐसा ही है कि जब आजाद शक्ति संगठन
Maybe my connection was
हम लोग
lost.
No, we
हेलो
have you, but just unmute for a minute. Somebody else is speaking. Yeah, just unmute. Yeah.
Ha? Na apa? Net lang sir ha, nag-mute.
Thank you. Go ahead.
हाँ ब्रिजेश
जब
जी।
आजाद शक्ति संगठन को जब हम लोग संगठन बनाए सर, तो उसमें बहुत चुनौती आई कि उसमें जो बड़े बड़े पूंजीपति वाले लोग हैं, वो गुमराह करके उस संगठन को तोड़ने की कोशिश की, लेकिन उसमें से कुछ सदस्य इधर उधर बिखरार हुए। लेकिन फिर भी जो है कि हम लोग हार नहीं माने अपनी सफलता को, क्योंकि हम उन लोग उस दर्द को झेले हैं, उस दर्द से निकले हैं, और लोगों को जो है कि दर्द को हम लोग समझ रहे, इसलिए अपने संगठन को निरंतरता लेकर हम लोग चल रहे हैं। और उस अब जो है कि हमारे संगठन में जो छोड़ के पीछे लोग चले गए, जो चुनौती में लोग पीछे हट गए, वो लोग भी धीरे धीरे अब आ गए हैं।
इसके अलावा और कोई चुनौती ब्रिजेश जी?
इसके अलावा और चुनौती इसमें है कि सर, जैसे कि अभी हमारे संगठन में कुछ लोग तो इसमें अशिक्षित हैं, पढ़े लिखे नहीं हैं, इसलिए चुनौती आती है। और लिखने पढ़ने की चुनौती आती है कि इसमें हम जैसे कुछ लिख पढ़ लेते हैं, कुछ दो चार छह लोग हैं इससे कि लिख पढ़ लेते हैं, और बाकी सदस्य तो लिखे पढ़े लिखे नहीं है, इसलिए चुनौती रहती है।
As for challenges are concerned while grooming the survivors collective, the members, they are sometimes misguided by the employers and people who run the businesses, and many people left the organization and got the fear of the employers, and but gradually they are also coming to the organization who had left in the past. And the another challenge is we most of us never been in any school, so majority of the people are illiterate or uneducated. So sometimes when we need anything, writing anything to write to the authorities, write to the administration, so in those situations, we face challenges to make our things in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Banuja. I mean, it's very good to see you. You still look young, Banuja. Thank you. So, Mirasol, you come back. So, can you unmute yourself? Unmute. You have to speak, Mirasol. Can you unmute, please?
James, she's
Good
having trouble.
afternoon. My apologies that I cannot hear the
Fine.
host of the session. I don't know what
Sorry.
happened to my
Okay.
phone, or I
Yeah.
don't know, is it for the
Yeah.
signal?
You can just tell us your
Yeah, I
your
cannot hear what
experiences.
the
Yeah. You can hear
facilitator
me
was
now?
talking. But I hear from Sir Romsey that the question is about the success stories of
Yeah.
our organization
Okay.
here in Cagayan de Oro City. I am pleased to be part of this session and our success stories of our organization, since it started with from 26 years in Cagayan de Oro City. Our members that are still in situation of prostitution has undergone ALS graduate. They are been able to be enrolled in our organizations, and some of them have for now is professional already. They have graduated to college, and then we are also part of our local government unit, city interagency It is a council against trafficking here in our city. We are also part of the 10 Accomplishment Youth Organization. It is a national awardee. We are being the national awardee here in the Philippines for the 10 Accomplishment Youth accomplishment. And then we are also a part of the International Day of No Prostitution. Our organization here in Cagayan de Oro City is the one catalyst to pursue that on October 5, it is the International Day of No Prostitution, and we are in partnership with our city social worker and development, so CSWD. And we have a lot of engagement. We are in networks and alliances to combat against human trafficking. We have Balaod Mindanao is the one who is helping us, the members of the SACA organizations to be capacitized by the empowered of the awareness. And also the Alagad Mindanao, Alliance Against AIDS in Mindanao, and our City Health Office is our alliance in our organization, so that the members that are not been able to finish school was trained and be having the opportunity to have a great job, and then they can stop from the situation of prostitution in our city. And so far, we also have engaged into the livelihood of our city social welfare and development, and we have a members also that has stopped in prostitution because they have been given livelihood for our partners in here in Cagayan de Oro City. We are also active in the media, in the networking in the media. We are conducting awareness on framework on prostitution, human trafficking, and STI, HIV, and AIDS awareness into the media partnership here in Cagayan de Oro City. Involvement in the LGUs is still active. And then that is for that. That is our success stories in the organization.
Marisol, thank you very much for your excellent answer. There are a lot of questions in the chat box. I would request panelists to answer those questions directly. And just one question only I would like to take up, that is regarding how do the survivors or the victims, what mechanism we have for them to approach, either the survivors organizations or otherwise? Banuja, if you can. What mechanism we have for victims or survivors to approach others for help?
ब्रजेश जी, सर के का ये पूछना है कि किस तरीके से आप लोग दूसरे जो पीड़ित हैं उनकी मदद कर पाते हैं, वो आप तक आते हैं, आप उन तक कैसे पहुंचते हैं?
पहले तो सर जो हमारा संगठन है, अभियान है, वो कम से कम 500 से ज्यादा गांव में जो है कि आउटरीच करते हैं, लोगों को प्रशिक्षित करते हैं कि कर्ज बंधुआ और मानव व्यापार के पीड़ित लोग जो और हैं, जो खतरे में हैं, रहने वाले हैं, उन लोगों को जागरूकता हम लोग करते रहते हैं। और खतरे में जो है उन लोगों को हम लोग सहायता भी प्राप्त करते हैं कि सरकार की मदद के जो
We as the member of the Ajaz Shakti Abhiyan do some sort of outreach in more than 500 villages. So, and we try to educate them about safe migration, about debt bondage, and we also help them, apart from awareness, making them aware, we help them to access the government entitlements, government schemes. By such way, we get connected with the people who are the victim or survivors of the bonded labor.
Thank you very much. I think we have to bring the session to a close in 1 minute. So thank you all for your participation. We really respect the personal voices of the survivors and or the victims in this session. The three of them spoke brilliantly well, and we wish we had more time. And Setting Dikshit has asked me to chair this session because she knows I talk a lot. So by being a chairman, I will not speak much. So I respect her expectation and end the session. Thank you all very much. Over to the chair.
ऑन कर लीजिए ब्रजेश जी।
जी सर।
Thank you, James. That was expertly done. I can't believe we're back on schedule yet again. Very well done.
Thank you.
Basically today, we really covered quite a lot of ground. This pillar, empowerment, again, lying at the heart of sustainable change and focusing on equipping individuals and communities with knowledge and tools. We started off with Buchanan's address discussing like the legacy of the forums themselves and how important it is to get survivor voices in particular, but all types of leaders involved in this space. We really looked at educational strategies that have been effective throughout the region. We looked at two different case studies focusing on legal empowerment as a critical tool. And we looked at economic resilience in vulnerable communities. And then, of course, we looked at how to empower survivors and workers. I think that in terms of all of the aspects of empowerment that we need to incorporate, especially for the region, this really was a very comprehensive overview. I think that as we go into tomorrow, looking at the principle of exposing some of these issues, and that's more
बैटरी डाउन उसको आ गया नहीं हो रहा है।
shedding light on the hidden and overlooked issues of modern slavery, which is really my area of expertise as a statistician that measures modern slavery. I think that empowerment is such a critical way to start this, because without empowerment, the data and tools and all the things that we develop really don't have the impact we're looking for. So I want to thank everyone again today, all the panelists, all the speakers, all the participants that really help to build those inroads into communities, build those platforms for knowledge and data sharing to help use the laws once they're created to affect change. I think this is the heart of empowerment, and really without empowerment, we're not really going to make much progress, even if we can effectively expose and end modern slavery. So thank you for that. I believe we have a couple minutes for any housekeeping items Dr. Balfour might want to add in.
Hi, everyone. No housekeeping announcements, but we want to remind everyone that we will be back tomorrow at the same time right here. And for those of you who will be participating tomorrow, just a reminder that one of our sessions will focus on a narrative document that was sent out to you. You would have gotten it a couple of times last week. We will try to send another reminder. If you can read that document before that session, it's a session that will be conducted by Dr. Brooke Bello, and we need your input in that. So we ask if you can read that narrative document and come prepared to be a part of that discussion. Otherwise, we encourage you to enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, wherever you are, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. We look forward to discussing my favorite topic tomorrow, research and data. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.